اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Because I know we have an issue with the mic, so can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So inshallah, we'll go ahead and get started. We don't want to delay it further. We apologize for the delay. But alhamdulillah, we have myself and we have everyone ready to get started with the speaker. So inshallah, we'll go ahead and get started. The event of tonight is the coolness of my eyes. And so if some of you are unaware of this phrase, it's actually used in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he mentions the salah, the Islamic prayer which is done 5 times a day. And he mentions that is the coolness of his eyes. And this is an Arabic expression to denote something which is very pleasing and a source of great joy and a source of great happiness. And so we figured this entire week we were talking about the different pillars of Islam, going over them, what they entail. And we wanted to culminate our week with the most important pillar of action, which is the salah, which the Prophet ﷺ said distinguishes a believer from a disbeliever. And so, alhamdulillah, we have Mawlana Abdul Hakeem Dickenson here with us, and he will be shedding some light on this very important topic of some of the issues relating to salah, and also some of the benefits that we can derive from this beautiful gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And so Sheikh Abdul Hakeem Dickenson is an instructor at Darul Qasim, Darul Hikmah, and he's the Imam at Masjid al-Uthman. Masjid al-Uthman is the new masjid which opened very recently. I don't know if you're aware, but it opened in the Lombard area. Yeah, Lombard area. Sheikh Abdul Hakeem Dickenson was born in 1974 in New Hampshire and grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He embraced Islam at the age of 19. His fascination with Islam quickly turned into a dedicated pursuit for more knowledge. Just 6 years after coming to Islam, Sheikh Abdul Hakeem enrolled as a full-time alim student at the Jamiatul Ulum al-Islamiyya al-Inamiyya in Ajax, Canada. He continued his alim studies at the Darul Ulum New York in Queens, New York from 2002 through 2003. His formal alim studies culminated at the Institute of Islamic Education, IIE in Elgin, Illinois, from 2006 through 2009, where he also earned ijaza in sanad and hadith and various Islamic sciences. Sheikh Abdul Hakeem is an accomplished imam, he's the imam at Masjid al-Uthman, and he is fluent in classical Arabic. Owing to his Anglo-Saxon roots and his own experiences as a young Muslim convert in America, he's particularly adept at mentoring younger Muslims and helping them cope with the challenges of growing up in a non-Muslim country and dealing with peer pressure in schools and neighborhoods and engaging in healthy interfaith dialogue. So he also is a student of Sheikh Amin, and if you are unaware of Sheikh Amin, you need to know who he is because he's one of the foremost scholars of our day. And alhamdulillah, so he has ijaza as well from Sheikh Amin from Darul Qasim Institute. So without further ado, inshallah, Mawlana Abdul Hakeem Dickenson.
Islam. It's what you call in English an active participle. You understand? It is the one who is doing this act. They are a Muslim. Okay? Now, who is a Muslim? They are the ones who, first of all, verify and accept all of these articles of faith. And afterwards, they enact it. In what form? You already covered how many of them so far? 4, right? What are they? Everyone should know this.
Shahada.
Even those who aren't Muslim in the crowd should know this, right? You have Shahada, you have the testimony of faith, you have, I'm skipping Salah, that's what we're doing
Zakat.
today, right? You have Sawm, which is fasting, you have Zakat, which is alms, for a lack of better words, and you have what? Hajj, pilgrimage to Mecca. Okay? Salah is actually the second pillar in order of sequence in this hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the saying of the Prophet Muhammad. There's a reason for that. If you had learned anything about these pillars in the last few days, not every pillar is an obligation on every person. For instance, fasting. Right? Certain people are absolved of fasting for particular reasons. Travelers, okay? for instance, don't have to fast in the month of Ramadan. Okay? Zakat, or the alms, is not obligatory on everybody. If you don't have a certain amount of money, you will not pay it. Hajj also, if you cannot afford the trip, you don't have to do it. There is only one pillar, which is universal. And anyone who says they're in the state of Islam cannot leave it. And this is salah. So I'm just going to mention a few things about this particular act of worship. Right? Because there's many ways to express your certitude and worship and all of these wonderful things towards your Creator. Salah is a very specific form. And it was specified by the Prophet Muhammad Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray as you see me pray. So the actual form of it was given to us by the Prophet Muhammad. The command of it was given to us by Allah Azza wa Jalla, the creator of everything. Okay? Now salah, its actual linguistic meaning, right? Meaning the Arab. The Arabs in the time of the Prophet ﷺ used this word, and it had a meaning. But the thing to note here is that its meaning in the time of the Prophet when he came and emerged amongst the Arab is different from what every Muslim understands salah to be now. Because salah in the time of the Prophet when he came, ﷺ, it simply was synonymous with supplication in general, in no particular form. If you supplicate, if you ask the Creator, if you ask God, this is called salah. Everyone understands that? Obviously, right? So salah was synonymous to what? Supplication. A simple prayer with no particular form and no particular hayya, meaning it wasn't given this type of, when you see now there's a very particular form to it. Where did this particular form come from? I just told you. Where? From the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We were given the order by the Creator to establish salah, aqim as-salah. Many times in the Quran, if you read it, establish salah, make your salah, make your salah. But the actual form, if you were to go through the Quran and try to find out, right? Like, okay, this salah, how is it performed? When is it performed? In which manner do we perform it? You wouldn't be able to find it. You wouldn't be able to find it. We only know how to perform the salah by the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? So basically, he was given, as we believe as Muslims, he is part of what defines Islam. You see, you cannot define Islam without the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You cannot define Islam without the Messenger of Allah. It's not possible. Our Islam is actually what the Messenger of Allah brought to us. Matter of fact, the term I used before, Iman, our very faith, what we accept, the definition of it is literally التصديق بما جاء به النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من عند ربه. That it is to confirm and accept everything that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought from his Lord, Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Creator. Does everyone understand that definition? That whatever he brought to us of aqidah, of theology, of how we view ourselves, our purpose of life, the world, the Creator, all of this, who defines it for us as a Muslim? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How do we worship Allah? How do we understand how to make salah? Though the order is there, it's all through the personality of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, of course, the salah, as I said, means supplication. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually gave it a particular form through the order of Allah, the Creator of everything. In other words, it is actually very particular. There are certain arkan, there's a certain structure to it by which every Muslim has to follow. No Muslim can actually do salah in the manner that they feel. They cannot just come up with their own intuition that, oh, this is how I feel like praying. Mind you, that the Sharia or the Islamic law does allow the Muslim to have a relationship outside of salah, which is not limited. How so? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Udhkur Allah dhikran kathira." Remember Allah abundantly. And in this command of Allah, there is no stipulation here of how or where or when. The only thing you're supposed to do is remember your Creator abundantly. It's important because one time I was working for my boss who happened to be Christian, right? So he noticed that I would take breaks and pray. So maybe he felt a little challenged. Huh? So he said, well, I don't have to pray just 5 times a day. I remember God all the time. And you see, he misses the whole point. Who's to say I don't remember God all the time either? Who is to say that I'm not engaged in the dhikr of Allah outside of salah at every moment? No matter what I'm doing, mundane affairs or not, right? The salah, its purpose is not necessarily that. There's a very specific purpose, and I even would go so far to say that, look, Islam, we make the claim it is a universal religion. Okay? It is meant for all people, in all times, in every culture, in every circumstance. Now, despite the fact that nowadays we like to believe there's such thing as this fallacy that we call absolute equality. Let's be honest. Are all human beings the same? Just be honest. Don't fall under any slogan. Are all human beings the same?
No.
No. If you have a universal religion, then can you have a standard, right, that is either too stringent or too loose? Or do you have to have a standard that can be followed by all human beings? What's the answer? So will every human being be able to be this spiritual, mashallah, enlightened person who just walks around all day long and remembers God and every breath they take? You really think every human being is going to be like that? No. So what does Islam do? Islam accepts the human for what they are. Not for what we want them to be, not for what we think they should be, not for what any of our moral standards that we think of humans should be like this utopia that we create in our minds that doesn't exist, never existed, and never will exist. Sorry to say it, but ever since human beings landed on this rock, we've had a pretty bad history from beginning until now, and it doesn't look like it's getting much better either. So you might as well accept human beings as they are. So what does Islam do? Islam says humans are humans, they're going to do what they do, but we're going to set a standard which will at least bring human beings up to some level of consciousness of God. And what is that? By obliging them to pray 5 times a day at the very least. Now if you want to do more than that, if you feel capable of doing more than that, then mashallah, it is all the will of Allah, you do as much as you possibly can. But this much is there to at least keep the Muslim at a bare minimum consciousness of Allah, the creator of all things that exist. Bare minimum. Without that salah, the Prophet ﷺ went so far to say that if you leave the salah willingly, it is as if you have disbelieved. This is a strong warning from the Prophet saying basically what I'm trying to say now, which is that that one connection that you have, that one thing that will keep you at that bare minimum level is this connection. It's called salah 5 times a day. If you leave that, if you lose that, then you're not even hanging on to that string anymore. We're not saying you're not Muslim or you don't believe. But what we're saying is that that is a belief that is very, very shaky. In other words, it is not strong in its foundation. Right? You will not be conscious of God if you're not praying 5 times a day. And I also remember when I was young, believe it or not, he actually mentioned my date of birth too. That should be haram. You know, that should be totally right? Did anyone hear that? 74, which means I'm how old? 40. It is what it is. So anyhow, when I was in high school, yes, there was a day when I was in high school, subhanAllah. And I wasn't Muslim at that time. And I was probably a little bit naughty too. I was in Afro-Asian history class. I remember this, which is what, sophomore year, 10th grade? Afro-Asian history class, right? They gave, of course, Western and European history is like the whole rest of the 4 years. Afro-Asian class is like 1 semester. The whole rest of the world could be explained in 1 semester. It's like, oh, they never did anything. It's all here. It's all the Anglo-Saxons. You know, it's just like, you know, that's the politics of it all. So anyhow, here it is. In Afro-Asian class, they actually went over the rise of Islam. Right? I went back to my mother's house and I rummaged through my old papers. I actually found a handout from that class, believe it or not. It's like, subhanAllah. So I wanted to see, what was he talking about? Because I forgot most of it, right? And I looked at it, you know, it was pretty balanced and fair. There wasn't too much misinformation there. It was just basically just dates and events. And he spoke about Al-Khulafa al-Rashidun, the direct caliphate of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but by the way, it was not a political movement. There was politics. But they basically carried on the tradition of Islam. That's another subject in itself. You can talk about that another time. Anyhow, the point is, he said in this Afro-Asian class, I never forget this. Here I am, you know, I was agnostic. I kind of like, you know, doing my own thing. I wasn't really sure about what to believe. This man tells me in the middle of class that Muslims are strict monotheists, right? Their concept of Tawheed, or what we call Tawheed, monotheism, is very strict. There is no equivalent, as I mentioned before, to God. There's no intermediaries between God and His servant, and so forth and so on. And wherever they are, whatever they're doing, they pray 5 times a day. Now, I'm not making this up. I'm telling you, at that moment, I wasn't Muslim, and I thought to myself, you know what? If that's what you do, how could you go wrong? That's what I said to myself. I said, if that's what you do, even my little brother, if I saw someone I have, unfortunately, a Facebook page. Please don't get on it, because I don't use it for anything anyhow, okay? So if you add me, you're going to see I don't post anything. I just watch other people. I just make my own social, like, you know, and like I'm sitting here watching. It's like a social experiment for me. It's like, wow, look at this. This is ridiculous, and this is ridiculous, and that's ridiculous, you know? But my little brother's there. So people come, he's not Muslim. People come and see me, like the sheikh or whatever, and then they see my little brother and his page, and they go, who is this? I said, look. That's why I don't post anything about religion there. It's like, here I am making deep quotes of Sufi, like, you know, this, that, and here's my little brother. Anyhow, one time my little brother even said the same thing to me at the dinner table. We were eating in my family, and he says, you know, if I was ever to become religious, I'd just do what he's doing. I just looked at him and said, watch out, one day you'll come. Yeah? So there I thought to myself that, you know what, how could you go wrong? That's incredible. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing. In fact, Rasulullah, the Prophet Muhammad said that the whole that the whole world, the whole earth has been made as a masjid, as a mosque. That's why in Islamic Sharia, even if you pray on the ground, if you pray on the dirt, as long as you don't see any filth, you actually, it's preferable. A lot of people don't know this. People put out the sajjada or the musalla, people have different najayinas and all that, right? The little prayer rugs. You've seen them all over, right, if you're used to the Muslims now. They put the little prayer rug on the dirt and the ground. Actually, it is preferable to pray on the ground, if it's clean. Preferable. Why? Because the whole earth has been made as a masjid, as a place of prayer for you. And it is clean. The earth does clean itself. And you can go study this on your own time. Even with empirical knowledge that we have, the earth cleans itself. It's a very, it cleans itself. Do you understand? So anyhow, the point is what? Anywhere you are, wherever you are, whoever you're in front of, you pray and you have this unique connection no matter what your status is as a person, whether you're spiritually inclined or not. You take the time out, you go towards the creator of all things that exist, and you don't need anyone or anybody to tell you. You do it yourself, and you have this unique connection. When I heard that, I said, there's no way you could go wrong if that's what you do. And the rest of the story is kind of funny, so I'll leave it that as it was. Next class, we happened to have a substitute teacher. She was about 20. Oh, me and my friends had a ball, right? Substitute teachers at times, just do whatever you want to do, right? So for some reason, I'm inspired. I got hit with this information 5 times a day, praying to the east. He also put that there, that they pray towards the Qibla, right, towards Mecca, which is not necessarily east everywhere you are, right? But anyhow, that's good enough, pray to the east. So what did I do? I got up, and I started literally trying to mimic the prayer, whatever I knew, whatever I saw in a movie somewhere, right? Like, here's how Muslims pray. My friends, look at me and say, yo, man, what are you doing? I said, I'm praying to the east. They thought it was a joke, they thought it was funny, so they started going, doing all this stuff. I was serious, I was being real. I was like, no, this is what I'm doing, I'm praying to the east, you know? Like, this is deep, you know? And they think it's funny, it's time to mess around with the substitute teacher and all that, so I never forgot that. But that was something that hit me, even at that time. This is the salah. It is that connection you make with the Creator, no matter what status you have, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, male, female, elder, youngster, doesn't matter. It is kind of that unique quality, or that unique, pillar of Islam. And that's why, unlike the other pillars of Islam, no Muslim is exempt. Every Muslim who is mature and of sound mind and body, as they say, must pray 5 times a day. Because this is that connection without which you will be hanging on by a thread or even less. Right? So it has many unique qualities. We don't have time for all that. You know, it combines many different things. It combines the internal, the external. That's why we actually have to read the Quran out loud. Because believe it or not, sounds do. In fact, the first channel to the heart is what we hear. In the sama wal basara wal fu'ad. Allah wa ta'ala even speaks about it in that order. Hearing, sight, and your heart. When the child is formed in the womb, what is the first thing that begins to develop? Right? Their ability to hear. So much so that when it develops, they can hear what's going on outside of its womb. So if there are good things going on in the house, the child soaks it in. If there's negativity in the house, arguing and shouting and this and that and the other thing, already the child is being bombarded. Okay? So we see that hearing is a very important part of how we actually learn. In fact, even in Islam, we say, I'll end at this, there are 3 channels by which all knowledge is achieved by human beings, no matter whether it's secular, no matter what it is. It's either your 5 senses, okay? You achieve knowledge through the 5 senses, or it's al-khabar al-sadiq, which is a truthful report, meaning somebody tells you about something and that the report is authentic. That's how you achieve knowledge. Or it is the aql, is the intellect. The mind itself obviously can have absolute knowledge, like 2 + 2 = 4. You understand? You get my point? So how does the knowledge of Islam come to us? We hear it. Through what? Reports. Okay? They came to us from generation to generation and were verified, and we also confirm those reports through the intellect, and we even, if you want to take it deeper than that, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did, ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him, meaning that even with our senses at a certain level too, we will confirm our deen and our religion. Even with the senses, even with what we perceive. So if you look at salah too, it is actually an incorporation of all these things. It's what you hear, it's what you're sensing, it's what you're thinking. It's everything in one form of worship, as opposed to just meditating, right? Or just chanting, or just doing anything else. This one unique form of ibadah and worship incorporates all of it. So when a person or a human being gets involved in it, then that connection is so much stronger than anything else they could do. Although, because Islam is broad, like I said, we can remember Allah in other forms. We can make dua, we can supplicate, we can chant, we can recite names of Allah, we can recite the Quran, we can do all these. We can even reflect and meditate, as they call it, tafakkur, think about things. All of that is there in our deen. But this salah incorporates every single aspect. So because of the lack of time, I will end there, inshallah. I suppose you do Q&A. Is that all right?